What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cafe and Views. On today's episode, we're going to SPL Coffee to try out the Rosemary Latte, which got rosemary and honey in it. Tune in for more to see if it's going to be your next favorite coffee shop or your next favorite coffee. When you first walked in, it just seemed like it was a pretty basic coffee shop. The door was kind of hard to find. It does have that simplistic, nice coffee shop vibe. There was 2 tables where you could sit and enjoy your coffee. There's no outdoor seating, so you're gonna have to either sit inside or drink your coffee elsewhere. The coffee shop does close at 3 p.m, so that's kind of a downside. So today we went to SPL Coffee and got the Rosemary Bee. As you can tell, the presentation is pretty good. It's got the honey at the bottom, it's got the milk, and it's got the coffee at the top. So this has a good amount of rosemary in it and also honey. So I get kind of like a sweeter fruit from this. I don't get a citrus or a lemon or something that would make it sour. I get more of like a blueberry or a raspberry type of acidity from it. The coffee kind of hits a good in between from being sharp and being mellow on the tongue. The first initial sip, you get the sharpness from the coffee, but then like 2 seconds after, it kind of all mellows out perfectly onto your taste buds. It gives me like a springtime vibe. Kind of area that I'm in right now kind of fits the coffee perfectly. Bright, sunny atmosphere is perfect for this coffee. But for acidity, I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. I'm really liking the honey and the rosemary that go along with this coffee. Having a flower in the coffee kind of changes and makes the coffee more alive. The coffee is attracting me for more. I want to keep drinking and smelling. The rosemary, the smell of it, it doesn't transition 100% to the taste, but you can definitely taste the rosemary as you're drinking it and as you're smelling it. I'm getting the honey and I'm getting the rosemary, so I can get the 2 smells real prominently. I don't have to lean into the coffee too much to really get a whiff of it. It's pretty prominent. All the smells of this coffee give it that good smell. There's nothing in this coffee that would make me shy away from smelling or drinking it. For aroma, I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5. It's giving me kind of like a skim milk type, where it's not too watery, but it's not too soda. I like thicker coffees, so this is kind of leaning in the right way, but it's not quite at the level of where I want it to be. It does sit on your tongue real well. It does coat your tongue pretty well, considering that this is not a thick coffee. What it's doing is, coating your tongue and around your mouth in a good way to where it lasts even after you finish drinking it. It feels pretty heavy for what it is. It's like seeing a lot of whipped cream. There's a lot of volume, but it sits on your tongue in such a fluffy way. It feels like there's a lot there, but it's actually so airy and fluffy that even the slightest sip will make your mouth feel like there's a lot of coffee going on. For body, I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. All the ingredients in this coffee are kind of balanced the right way. Although it does feel like there's something missing in the flavor. The ingredients in here are real well, but there's something missing. There's something missing in the flavor that would add to the coffee in a better way, that would take it to the next level. The rosemary is kind of overpowering the coffee. It's not a forgettable coffee. It's definitely a coffee that you could remember and you could keep getting day in and day out. But in the moment, it doesn't wow me. For flavor, I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5. For sweetness, even though that there's a lot of honey in here, there was like a good amount that you're supposed to mix up. It didn't really add to the overall big sweetness of the coffee. Although I did take a sip for mixing and it was pretty sour. I would say that the honey does a really good job, but not enough of a job to make the coffee really sweet. It's kind of like you're drinking sweeter milk. For sweetness, I'm giving this a 2 out of 5. For aftertaste, it kind of goes hand in hand with body. The coffee coats your mouth, makes the coffee linger for a longer period of time. The coating and and the texture and the flavor from the coffee after you drink it when it coats your mouth is pleasant. Has the same consistency in terms of flavor from the moment you drink it to the moment you taste it and aftertaste and so on. Coffee is smooth in your mouth, and then when it goes down, it's also pretty sweet, sour, so it's like right in the middle, so that's even good as well. The coffee doesn't dissipate quickly. It stays in your mouth for about 10-15 seconds. The flavors are pretty prominent. For aftertaste, I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5. Complexity, I'm taking into account before I even drank the coffee, like the presentation of how complex it looked. As you were able to tell, there was coffee at the top, milk in the middle, and then honey at the bottom. And then I'm sure the rosemary was mixed into the coffee, so that's definitely adds to it. It didn't really give that big of a change when you mixed it. I'm gonna give it other bonus points for the lid. It's different than the other cups of coffee. Although the coffee does change a little bit towards the end, overall it does keep that beginning, middle, and end consistency to it. It's still the same level of complexity from the moment you drink it to the moment you finish. For complexity, I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. All just doesn't mix together 100%. This coffee is more of like a 75% balanced and mixed together. I like rosemary, but I wouldn't want it to stand out as much as blueberry taste or citrus taste or the honey in it. I would want the rosemary to be kind of hidden to where I could taste it, but it's not prominent. It doesn't taste like if it's the main ingredient in the coffee. You don't want to drink the coffee and be like, whoa, that's a huge blast of rosemary. The balance, I'm giving this a 2.5 out of 5. I would probably reach for this coffee during the afternoon. I wouldn't reach for it in the morning or in the evening. This is definitely something that you're just getting out of work at 4 o'clock and you want a nice change of pace coffee. For me, I want my morning coffees to be full of flavor, full of complexity, full of aroma. This coffee has some of that. That's why I reserved it for the afternoon, to where you could still get that in your coffee in your day, but it's not something that you would also reach for in the evening and unwind with. I reserve my evening coffees for those coffees that have good taste and aroma but aren't complex. They don't have a lot of balance and a lot to do with them. It's kind of just if you need a pick-me-up and you want something that tastes good, you would drink it in the evening. I wouldn't put this coffee in the evening realm because it's good, it's still complex, it's still full of flavor and aroma, and you want to be able to enjoy this in the afternoon. So for versatility, I'm going to give this coffee a 2 out of 5. Lastly, forgiveness. Does everything else in the coffee, the other characteristics, forgive all the other negatives that I took out in the coffee? I would say no. The coffee is kind of more on the basic spectrum as opposed to the more out of the ordinary and head turners. It's definitely like a safer coffee. It's good. It's safe, it's consistent. You can reach for this when you're not sure of what to drink. Forgiveness, I'm gonna give this coffee a 2 out of 5. Wrap everything up. I gave this coffee a 30 out of 50, or about a 60% out of 100. So as you can tell, this coffee is kind of right in the middle ground. It still has 30 points out of 50, which is a great amount of points. By no means is this coffee bad or distasteful. It's a good coffee, but it's just not at the level of the other coffees that I've had, the ones where I gave it a high 70, low 80s. Who knows, maybe you might think of this coffee as an 80 out of 100 as opposed to a 60 that I gave it. You might take the flavors from the coffee and perceive them a lot different than I do. Coffee is a lot better than the coffee shop and the environment. So don't be discouraged when you pass by SLP Coffee. Go in there and try out the different coffees. I'm sure you're gonna be surprised. A lot of coffees in there might surprise you, and they might make that coffee shop your next favorite coffee, so go check it out. Again, thank you so much for watching Cafe and Views SLP episode. Tune in for more.